Good afternoon. What an honor it is for me to be here this afternoon. My name is Marian Stuckey, and I proudly serve as the lead for the Columbus Care Coalition. I stand in sincere gratitude to Mayor Ginther, who supports and understands the importance of trauma and resilience work here in Columbus as a part of the comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy. When we started the Care Coalition, we weren't sure what the outcome would be. We just knew that there was an immense need in our communities, and we hit the ground running, envisioning a trauma-informed community with key principles such as bringing services directly to the community, and that when trauma happens to one, it happens to all of us. By acknowledging trauma, creating an infrastructure for rapid crisis response, and offering trauma-responsive care trainings, CARE is working hard each and every day to make a difference. We do this with the assistance of many partners, many I see here today, who contribute to making the coalition strong, and I thank them. CARE stands for Community Action, Resilience, and Empowerment, and these are 4 words that really drive our work. Trauma is all around us, but it doesn't have to define us. Despite the harsh impacts of trauma on health and well-being, we as a community can work together to support our ability to bounce back, even if it's a new normal. With the acknowledgement of trauma, we start the healing process. There are times when the only thing that anyone can do is just be there and just listen, especially when someone is experiencing emotional pain. As CARE has listened here over the past year, here's a little bit of what we've heard. We heard from a mother who opened her front door to see a dead body in her front lawn. She immediately shielded her child to try to protect them from that sight. We heard from residents who not only live in the midst of gun violence, but many who were impacted themselves. One was a middle school student. We heard the journey of being a new American, of the challenges of staying true to one's native culture, yet embracing your current culture related to grief and loss. We've heard many heartbreaking stories from families who have suffered violent losses and who are trying to pick up the pieces. Early on, we met with a grandmother who had lost both of her sons to gun violence. And as we sat there with her, she was crying and she was sharing photos and memories with us. All we could do was just be there for her and listen, and ultimately try to get her connected with services. Her pain was intense and it was devastating, and she was having trouble just getting through each day. And lastly, we provided rapid response to different traumas within the community. What we've heard is a lot of thank yous and appreciation from residents who didn't feel ignored or forgotten about, despite everything that's happening in the community. We were there, and they were appreciative that we were sharing our care and concern. All these are personal traumas and the experience of and definition that we each hold uniquely ourselves for trauma. It highlights the importance of providing all the opportunities for processing and healing trauma to promote resilience. In our work, we've heard many stories of resilience, including acts of survival and courage. Because our city leadership understands and believes in the CARE Coalition, we have been able to build and grow to what we are today. I'm so glad that Mayor Ginther values the important work of the coalition in making neighborhoods and families safer and stronger. He understands and appreciates that preventing violence and making neighborhoods safer is not just about law enforcement, it's a multifaceted approach. Preventing violence is about community connections and building up neighborhoods, and his commitment to reducing violence is evident in his leadership of the comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy. The Columbus Care Coalition is glad to be a part of this effort and his team. I know that together we can make a difference. And now, please join me in welcoming Mayor Andrew J. Ginther.
Thank you, Marian, and thank you to all the members of the CARE Coalition and the critically important work they do every day in our neighborhoods throughout our city. A year ago, we were facing a spike in homicides in Columbus. To some, it became a tally. But to me, and to most of you, it was more than a number. Each and every homicide was a loss. A brother, sister, mother, father, son, or daughter. We knew that any strategy to reduce homicides needed to be comprehensive. We could not police our way out of the violence, the record number of homicides we were seeing on our streets. My team gathered small groups of residents together to talk openly and honestly about what was happening in our neighborhoods, what was working that we needed to do more of, and what wasn't working that we needed to stop or change course on. Safety Director Pettis and Chief Jacobs were in each of those meetings. From there, we created the comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy, a plan to address violent crime and homicides in particular that included police, public health, neighborhoods, recreation and parks, a comprehensive, holistic approach. We expanded Safe Streets Bike Patrol to include the Hilltop and the South Side, in addition to Linden. We added 100 more police officers, the most added in a single year in the last 5 years. We accelerated crisis intervention training for our officers to better respond to people in crisis. All new recruits are required to take the training, and so far, 426 of our community-facing police officers have also completed this training. In addition, Columbus has signed on to the One Mind campaign that seeks to ensure successful interactions between police and officers and those affected by mental illness. As I said, the plan included more than just police efforts. We engaged the CARE Coalition to provide trauma-informed responses that Marion talked to us about, not only to the family of homicide victims, but to the neighbors in the area where the crime occurred. We formed a neighborhood crisis response team to create physical deterrents to crime such as streetlights, alley cleanups, and a plan that cracks down on illegal dumping. We also created the Violent Crime Review Group, a multi-department group that reviews and responds to homicides. In partnership with the Franklin County Courts, we engaged in Safe Neighborhoods, a deterrence plan to help break the cycle of violent crime. And our Recreation and Parks team worked with the Franklin County Juvenile Court to expand their job readiness program to provide young offenders an alternate route to reoffending. We also created the Columbus Community Safety Advisory Commission to ensure that our police department has the best training, policies, and procedures to protect and serve the entire community. While I am far from saying the strategy is a success, I'm very pleased with the progress that we are making. A decrease in homicides just from last year. To date, there have been 93 homicides, compared with 114 at this same time last year. Violent crime as a whole is continuing to decrease as well. The incidents of homicide, rape, aggravated burglary, and assault have tracked lower in 2018 than 2017 in 10 out of the 12 months. Now, I would like to ask some of our directors who are helping to lead this work to report out on their areas of strategy. First, we're going to hear from our Safety Director, Ned Pettis. Director Pettis?
Thank you, Mayor Ginther, for the opportunity to talk about some of the great initiatives that the Department of Public Safety is implementing to further the accomplishments of your comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy. As you are hearing today, community safety is not the job of just one department, but is enhanced when several departments join together to approach problems holistically. On behalf of public safety, I want to thank our partners in the Departments of Public Health, Neighborhoods, and Recreation and Parks. I'd also like this opportunity to recognize and thank our Division of Police Deputy Chiefs for being here. Deputy Chief Tim Becker, Deputy Chief Ken Keebler, Deputy Chief Tom Quinlan, and Deputy Chief Richard Bash. Thank you for your leadership. This past summer, the highly successful Safe Streets initiative was expanded from just the Linden neighborhood to also include the Hilltop and South Side neighborhoods. This initiative, designed to re-engage the community, reduce violent crime, and address a variety of issues that have been prioritized by the community, utilizes uniformed bike officers to focus specifically on improving community-police relations while addressing those community concerns. Officers served as the first line of communication for residents needing city services and for connecting residents with other city departments to resolve non-law enforcement related problems, or to put it more succinctly, to protect, detect, and connect. This initiative, which ran roughly between May and September, resulted in 8,351 contacts with residents, attendance at 151 community events, 279 felony arrests, and the recovery of illegal firearms, drugs, currency, and stolen cars. In addition, the initiative was involved in inspection of parcels of land, code violations, junk vehicle violations, placarding or abatement of nuisance properties, and shutting down properties determined to be a chronic nuisance. The catalyst for the successful work of the officers was the community. Those who came forward to provide tips through an anonymous tip line, as well as directly to assigned officers with whom they had built a relationship. As a result of these interactions, violent crime has been reduced in these 3 areas of the city since 2016. Commander Jennifer Knight, who piloted and expanded the Safe Streets program, is here. She and the officers involved in this initiative should be commended for their creative thinking, their hard work, and their success. The Department of Public Safety is in the process of creating needed infrastructure to support a new gunshot detection system. ShotSpotter, a pilot project, will be installed in 3 areas of the city with the highest incidence of gunfire: the Hilltop, Linden, and the South Side. In each of these selected areas, sensors will be installed which will notify police within seconds of a gunshot being confirmed by the system. This will allow officers to respond faster to a more targeted location. It will also allow for detection of multiple weapons. Unfortunately, when residents hear gunfire, they do not always call police, or they are unable to pinpoint the exact location of gunfire. The ShotSpotter system will notify police faster than a resident can call 911 and a cruiser can be dispatched, saving valuable time on the part of the responding officers. This system allows for greater situational awareness, thereby making the response safer for our officers as well. We've entered into a contract with the vendor, and we're in the process of installing the necessary infrastructure. You will hear more about this law enforcement tool when fully implemented, we estimate by sometime in the first quarter of 2019. Deputy Chief Richard Bash, who is with us today, is overseeing this important project. And I'm proud to reiterate that the homicide rate is down this year compared to this same time last year. We had 93 homicides as of November 9th, and as compared to 114 by the same date last year. Out of those 93, 45 have been cleared by various means, and 38 suspects have been arrested, with several others having warrants filed for known suspects. In the spring of this year, the homicide unit started a 90-day pilot project which handed over the investigations into natural, suicide, and overdose deaths to the investigators from the Franklin County Coroner's Office. In the past, both homicide detectives and coroner's investigators responded on dead on arrivals, or DOAs, often taking a homicide detective away from a lead they were working on a homicide. This pilot project proved so successful, Chief Jacobs has approved transitioning this to be a permanent change. By reducing the duplication of effort in these cases, homicide detectives have been able to spend more time tracking down leads in their assigned homicide cases. While it is too soon to determine the impact on clearance rates on homicides, it has provided for more consistent time dedicated to an investigation and less frustration on the part of the detectives who in the past had to stop what they were doing on an investigation to respond on a DOA. Deputy Chief Timothy Becker over the Investigative Subdivision and Commander Michael Gray, who oversees the Crimes Against Persons Bureau, managed the implementation of the project with the Coroner's Office, and they're here in attendance today. So on behalf of the Department of Public Safety, we want to thank Mayor Ginther for his support, both fiscally and intellectually, regarding these initiatives. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Health Commissioner, Dr. Mashika Roberts, who is one of our valued partners over Columbus Public Health, and she will speak on additional initiatives to improve public safety in Columbus. Thank you. Dr. Roberts.
Thanks to you, Director Pettis, and to the Department of Public Safety and for our Columbus Police for partnering with us. And Mayor Ginther, thank you for your leadership and your commitment to making families, neighborhoods, and our entire community safer through the comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy. When Mayor Ginther asked me a year ago to lead the Violent Crime Review Group, I was honored. And like him, I was determined to make a difference. Since then, we hit the ground running, learning as we go, to reduce homicides by helping those impacted by trauma and by looking at crime in new and innovative ways. Our approach to reducing crime, or homicide specifically, has been twofold. Together with our partners in 8 city departments, we are providing immediate services to people and communities affected by violence within 48 hours of the homicide in our pilot neighborhoods. We are also examining all contributing factors to help create neighborhood-specific recommendations that can have long-term impacts on reducing violence. Since the Violent Crime Review Group began its work less than 1 year ago, in just one pilot neighborhood of Linden, we have expanded to a total of 3 neighborhoods. Linden, the Hilltop, and the South Side were chosen because of their high homicide rates and because the city has already placed significant resources in that area, so we are leveraging our work. Earlier this year, we also went live with a new rapid homicide notification alert system that connects the Mayor's Office, Columbus Public Health, the CARE Coalition, Public Safety, Police, Rec and Parks, and the Department of Neighborhoods and Development to get people and resources as well as services into the impacted neighborhood as quickly as possible after a homicide occurs. Since the rapid homicide notification system went live on May 1, it has been activated 13 times for homicides in Linden, the Hilltop, and the South Side. Because of this system, we have been able to rapidly mobilize and provide services to the community following a homicide. Let me give you a few examples. The CARE Coalition knocked on doors and distributed trauma care, grief, counseling, and resources to approximately 290 homes. The CARE social workers contacted 7 next of kin and offered grief support and services to those families. The Department of Neighborhoods reviewed nearly 8 square miles and conducted lighting assessments and reviewed 311 complaints to immediately identify and fix problems that might be contributing to violence and crime. The Department of Development identified 227 homes in need of enforcement, repairs, and cleanup near the homicide. And Recreation and Parks interventionists engaged 28 community members to gain information and help prevent retaliatory attacks. In addition to providing these immediate services to families and neighborhoods, we are also working to prevent homicides by looking at the root cause of violence. So instead of just thinking of a homicide in terms of police, the courts, and the crime response, we are also working with our partners on the Violent Crime Review Group to gather and analyze data behind homicides to better understand them in these particular areas. We will look at the victims and offenders to identify trends and patterns, and we are reaching out to the judicial, education, and social service providers to see what information we can get to determine risk factors and touch points along the way so we might be able to change the trajectory of a person's life. We are also developing insight and information on social connections to identify those at most risk of gun violence. This information will help us take a closer look and to discover common risk factors associated with homicides. What we learn will inform our work and help us develop crime intervention strategies and recommendations that will help chart a path of promise for our residents and reduce the number of homicides in our community in the future. We have made great strides in just 1 year, but we know we have so much more work to do, and we are in it for the long haul. Columbus Public Health is committed to working with our partners, with our mayor, and with all of you to build families and neighborhoods that are resilient, healthy, and safe, no matter where they are. Joining us in this safety effort is another very important partner in the Violent Crime Review Group and the Comprehensive Neighborhood Safety Strategy. Please join me in welcoming Carla Williams-Scott, Director of the Department of Neighborhoods. Director Williams-Scott.
Good afternoon. And thank you, Mayor, for bringing us all here together this afternoon. And thank you to my colleagues in public safety and public health. As Dr. Roberts mentioned, our department works with the neighborhood crisis response. Our goal is to go in and to look at the physical environment and the physical deterrence of crime. Neighborhood crisis response allows us to make immediate improvements within our neighborhoods after a violent crime has occurred. The Department of Neighborhoods works collaboratively with public safety, public health, public service, public utilities, code enforcement, and recreation and parks to assess the areas where a crime has occurred and determine if there is a need to make improvements to the physical environment, such as adding additional street lights, removing debris from neighborhood streets and alleys, and canvassing neighborhoods for nuisance code issues and any other issues that may impact that area. Each of our city departments plays a key role in contributing to the neighborhood crisis response. In addition to neighborhood crisis response, we have also established neighborhood safety committees in our target neighborhoods of Linden, the South Side, and the Hilltop. In these meetings, residents have been able to have an open discussion with city staff to identify their key safety concerns that they see within their neighborhoods and identify possible solutions and working with the city to address those concerns. Resident engagement is crucial for us to continue our goal of making neighborhoods safer for everyone and enhancing the valuable work already being done in our community through our various community groups, area commissions, civic associations, and block watches. A comprehensive strategy requires that all departments play a key role in this plan. The Department of Neighborhoods and our neighborhood crisis response team work with our other city departments to enhance the impact of our safety investments. Let me share a few examples with you. Through a partnership with Safe Routes to School within the Columbus Public Health, the Department of Utilities, and the Department of Public Service, we have identified pedestrian pathways that lead to schools in our target neighborhoods. These routes will receive additional lighting to make sidewalks more visible, investments to create more sidewalks to help neighborhoods become more walkable, and we will be engaging with residents along the Safe Routes program to become porch parents. The Department of Neighborhoods and Neighborhood Crisis Response will also pilot a porch light program that will coincide with our Safe Routes to School. Residents that meet the requirements of the program and agree to participate will be eligible to have a new porch light installed on their front porch, thus allowing to ensure that our streets and our target neighborhoods are well lit and safer. Lastly, in coordination with the Division of Refuse, Neighborhood Crisis Response will clear problem alleyways that are in proximity to high crime areas. We also will work to clear alleyways that have been identified by residents through our newly established neighborhood safety committees and our violent crime heat mapping. The Department of Neighborhoods and Neighborhood Crisis Response will continue using our resources to help these programs develop. We look forward to continuing and creating new and innovative ways to make our neighborhood safer for all residents. And now it's my pleasure to bring our mayor back to the podium.
Thank you, Director, to you and your team for all of your efforts with this work. A big part of reducing crime is keeping it from happening in the first place. Our Recreation and Parks team has been key in efforts to engage our vulnerable youth. Director Collins is here and appreciate his leadership and vision. This summer, the APPS program hired 114 young people between the ages of 14 and 23 from neighborhoods that have a disproportionate number of barriers to success. These young people participated in a 9-week program that included training sessions in topics such as cultural diversity, financial literacy, and resume writing. Outside of the classroom training, these participants worked in various city departments. Job coaches performed weekly work site visits to provide support and guidance to ensure success for our young people. Program leaders shared that they felt there were 2 consistent themes that came from the participants. First, appreciation of the relationships they built with city staff. And second, they want to work more hours next summer. This speaks to the impact that we make when we invest in our young people. We began an innovative effort this fall in the Wedgwood community that was disproportionately negatively impacted with our homicide spike last year. This innovative effort, Community Center Without Walls, we're working to take community building recreation programs to the residents of the Wedgwood neighborhood, where many new American Somalis members call home. During the month of October, our Recreation and Parks Department staff made an effort to be more involved in Wedgwood Middle School, where we had already started the TAPS program in a partnership with Public Safety. We also provided transportation to a nearby community center for a 2.5-hour block of time to provide programming and for kids to have a safe place to play. I'd like to thank and recognize our Recreation and Parks Manager, Antonio Combs, who's helping to lead these programs. I'd like to introduce him to you in person, but because he is as passionate about his work as he is, he's doing it right now with the kids of Wedgwood and couldn't join us here today. And last but not least, the Safety Advisory Commission remains hard at work under the direction of former city attorney and judge Janet Jackson. As promised, we brought a consultant on board to help with the work. Matrix Consulting brings an objective, independent point of view and will be helping the group bring recommendations to me early next year. We have committed significant resources to address homicides and violent crime in our community. We are seeing positive results, and now is not the time to let up. Tomorrow morning, I will release my proposed operating budget for 2019 that funds core city services such as safety and health. Our proposed general fund operating budget totals $912 million. It is a balanced budget that reflects our priorities: neighborhoods, neighborhoods, neighborhoods. Safety remains the largest investment we make as a city. This year, we are budgeting $622.5 million for public safety. As you heard from Director Pettis, Safe Streets Bike Patrol has received overwhelming support from the community and from our officers. I am pleased to report that next year, I am proposing $2.9 million for the program to expand the duration beyond May to September in those 3 target neighborhoods. That means more time for our officers to build and enhance those relationships with the community, more time to gather information and intelligence to help us prevent and solve crimes, more time to see a continued reduction in crime in our neighborhoods. I've also budgeted for 2 new police recruit classes of 40 each, and I'm excited to announce that Public Safety will implement a cadet program for police and fire in 2019 that will help us build a pipeline of qualified, diverse candidates to enter our safety forces. We've earmarked $1.4 million for training and college credit for young people to become successful candidates for future fire and police recruit classes. Funding will also continue for our non-law enforcement efforts as well. The Department of Neighborhoods will continue to identify opportunities to address social determinants regarding safety across the city. It will receive funding for 2 additional full-time neighborhood liaisons that will help provide residents with better access to information and increased efficiency in resolving community concerns. We've also budgeted $6.1 million for the Neighborhood Crisis Response Team. Our code enforcement efforts will receive $7.8 million for continued efforts in fighting nuisance, property violations, and illegal dumping. Columbus Public Health will receive $371,000 for continuation of the CARE Coalition. Recreation and Parks will receive funds that help direct our youth and keep them on positive life paths. $1.5 million for apps to help connect youth with services and programs focused on building life skills and preparing for a successful future. $860,000 for after-school programs, including during winter break, spring break, and summer, and $430,000 for its summer work program. Violent crime is a complex issue and requires comprehensive, holistic solutions and approaches. We need to address protection and prevention. But we have a very special guest, someone who I just met for the first time, and a Hilltop resident, but most importantly, Nicole McKenzie, or Nikki as she said to me, is a parent ambassador at Highland Elementary School. And Nikki is going to share some of her thoughts and stories to wrap us up here today. Please welcome Nikki McKenzie.
My name is Nicole McKenzie, and I'm a longtime resident of the Hilltop. I have 3 children of my own that attend Highland Elementary School here on the Hilltop, and I want them to grow up in a safe neighborhood that they don't have to even think about crime. And I wanted to also, he said, tell a story. My husband passed away 3 months ago, and during that time, the police officers that were at my house were so amazing. My children were at home by themselves when this happened, and I just cannot give enough thanks to Linda Gibson is on the Columbus Police Department, and she did a wonderful job of just crisis care with my children at that point. And Mayor Ginther, I just want to thank you for your committed assurance to our neighborhood safety. Yeah. Thank you very much.